Okay. Okay. Bueno, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Sunday Writer Salon. Today, February 15th. I hope everybody had a good Valentine's Day or a day of self-love if you don't have a Valentine's Day. I spent it at two events yesterday. Um, so today we have one of the originators, founding members of the Writers Salon. So you're here today because Yaddy was one of those people who put a grain of salt so that the Writers Salon can exist. And she did that with like 5 other women. Okay. But much respect to Yaddy. ¿Cómo que dicen? Go like this. Thank you,
Bow
Yaddy,
down.
for the salon. Aunque let me just say that the majority of the salon members, they moved on so to bigger things, so they don't even come back unless I threaten them. Jadi I didn't have to threaten Jadi. She actually texted me and she was like, I want to teach a workshop. And I was like, fine. But the rest of the women, I have to run behind them and be like, que lo que, come back, teach a workshop. Um, but Jadi is here and she's teaching today's workshop from the, what is it? From the plate to the page?
Yeah, from the plate to the page.
Okay. So announcements, folks. The Dominican Writers Conference is happening May 1st through the 3rd. The website for the conference is dwaconference.org. Subscribe because we will be sending out announcement. I will be pretty soon announcing who the conference is being dedicated to, para que pierdan su cabeza. And we're planning to also release the tickets at the same time. Um, if you didn't attend the first writers conference, we had about 300 Dominican writers in attendance. This is a Dominican American writers conference. It is not a conference for your tío who writes in Spanish. I do not move in the Dominican Spanish spaces like that, okay? Even though we've published bilingual in Spanish, but one day I would, it's just different. People who write in Spanish move very differently than Dominicans who write in English. Okay? If you write in English, you submit to contests, you submit to journals, you apply to grants and residency, and you make your career grow. The Spanish writer doesn't do any of that. And it's also in part because there's little opportunities available for people to write in Spanish, even though NYU offers a free master's in Spanish for those of you who are interested. And it's taught by Rita Indiana, who is a Dominican author. Okay, so that's not who the conference is for. The conference is for Dominican American writers who wish to learn about the publishing industry, about literary agents, get manuscript reviews, meet editorial staff, get professional advice, meet mentors, and network. Definitely heavy on the networking. Okay, that is who the conference is for. The Writer Salon is going to have a room specifically for them because the Writer Salon has been involved with the growth of many of our writers, with getting our writers to be published, with sharing opportunities and resources. So they will have their own space for those people who are just entering, emerging, who, for those of you who are trying to find your way around writing and I want to publish, but how do I get there? I want to write a Substack, but how do I do that? You know, many of the salon writers have gone through this process and they will be able to guide you. You do not need to be Dominican to attend the conference, okay? You don't need to be Dominican. But do know that if you're not Dominican, I don't want you to be mad at how much Dominicanness you will be witnessing, okay? Because it would be a lot. You're going to be overwhelmed with Dominicanidad. So if Dominicans are too loud for you, if Dominicans are too much for you, this may not be the event for you because we will be all that. We will be celebrating our authors, those of us who are published, those of us who are learning to be published. We're going to highlight as many people as possible. So just know that, para que después no me estén mandando mensajes. Ah, it was this. I don't want to see that on the feedback forms. Nada. Okay?
And if Dominicans speak too fast.
Or if Dominicans speak too fast. We're not gonna have translators to do that because they can slow down, they can minimize that. No, we're not gonna do any of that. Okay? If you have any questions about the conference, feel free to reach out to me through WhatsApp. I'm happy to answer any questions. Right now, we are accepting proposals for panels and writing workshops. They're on the website, dwaconference.org. You could fill out the proposal. The committee will review it and they will let you know if you are accepted. You do not need to be Dominican to submit a proposal. But if you're hosting a panel, there better be a Dominican on that panel. Okay? And if you don't know any Dominicans, get to know some. Or ask me and I'll tell you who you can put in the panel. But we will offer a moderate stipend to those who moderate a panel and those who host a workshop. Moderate. Dije. Moderate. Okay? What else? Probably have a bunch of things. We have a couple of events we're going to be announcing this week and a bunch of other stuff because my brain is like all over the place. But Yaddy, thank you for teaching today, and I don't have to teach. A reminder that these workshops are recorded, and if you need to leave early or you miss any of them, you can always find them on our YouTube channel. Okay, so Yaddy, all yours.
Yes, thank you, Angela. Let me just share my screen first. Espérate. Espérate. Okay, good morning, everybody. Wait, good morning, everybody. I haven't been here so long. It's been a few years since I last was here. I'm one of the founding members of the Writer Salon. I texted Angie that I'm like, hey, can I teach a writing workshop? And she said, sure. So I'm here. And today's workshop has to do with from the plate to the page. My purpose of wanting to share this workshop is I really want us to start thinking more about who has access to food, who creates, how can we gain more ownership to our food access and food equity versus food equality and food as memories, as food as a place, as a form of migration, and all that. Food is never just nourishment. It carries stories of home, culture, labor, survival, and identity. What we eat connects us to family, community, and history, while also revealing larger systems that shape who has access to food and who does not. In this workshop, we will move from personal to the collective. So we will explore food as memory and sensory experience, meals connected to identity, care, and survival, and the people and labor behind what we eat. And first prompt, Angie, is it still like 10 minutes per prompt or?
Yeah, we usually do 10 minutes. If you have 7 prompts, 10 minutes should be good enough.
Okay. So the first prompt is food as memory. I want you to use your sensories, all 5 of them. Write about a food that holds a strong memory for you. Where were you? Who was present? What it did taste, smell, and feel like. Let the sensory details bring the moment alive. For example, I want to give an example. So, like my food that I always hold that holds a very strong memory is farina, because my family we will cook them. We will make farina on Sundays, or all of us as a family when I was a kid. So that's just an example. So I'll give you a 10 minutes for this prompt, and you could begin. Okay, start wrapping it up. Okay, we're moving on to the next prompt. So second prompt is food as comfort or survival. Write about a meal that sustained you during difficult time, emotionally, physically, or financially. What need did it meet? What did it represent beyond nourishment? So for me, it was the plátano, farina, and bread. Those are the foods that sustained me during difficult times. So I'll give you guys 10 minutes for that.
Sorry, can somebody share the first prompt in the chat? I had to step out real quick.
I'll share it in the chat. Yeah, just give me a second. Okay. The third prompt, the hands that feed you. Think about a meal you love. Write about the people behind it. The cook, the farmer, a family member, a street vendor, a grocery worker. What labor made this food possible? I'll give you some moments. 20 more seconds. Okay, the next prompt, the fourth prompt, food as a metaphor. Choose a food and use it as a metaphor for something larger, a relationship, identity, migration, community, struggle, or joy. What does this food reveal about life beyond the plate? 10 minutes. 10 seconds. Next prompt. Where food lives. Describe a place where food is bought, shared, or distributed in your community. It could be a kitchen, a market, a bodega, restaurant, food pantry, or a dining table, whatever calls you. What does this place reveal about access, belonging, and exclusion? And I'll give you 10 minutes. 20 more seconds. Okay, so our next prompt, unequal plates. Write about a moment when you notice differences in who has access to food and who does not, whether in your community or elsewhere. What do you observe? How are you observing? How did it make you feel? I'll give you guys about 10 more minutes. Okay, just because I want us to have a little bit more time to share for those that choosing to share, I'm gonna move these right along. I am dropping the prompts in the chat, and we will share this out later. So you can continue writing on this prompt later. The last one. Writing towards food justice. Imagine a world where everyone has access to nourishing, culturally meaningful food. What would change? Who would be centered? What would justice look like on the plate, in the kitchen, and in the community? And then I will give you guys about like 6 minutes for this. Okay. All right. So just start wrapping it up. And you guys could go back to these prompts later. I did drop them in the chat. Um, and then I'll share some additional so you guys could go back later and write it again. So these are just some additional prompts. I don't even want to take a picture, or if Angie's gonna share with you guys, like maybe in an email or later on, or you just want to take a picture of it, that works for you, whatever. So I'm just gonna leave this for a bit so you guys could see some of the prompts for later. Okay, that's that. Or I could also like share these in the chat as well. Um, and then I wanted to share also some books about like the topic of like food and like food justice and just anything that has to do with like just this topic. So here's just a list of like nonfiction, fiction, children's books. Um, and yeah. So if you guys want, I could share this also at the end, or Angie will probably share this with you guys. Or you could take a picture of it if you want. And then lastly, I'll drop these in the chat. I actually put together a list of food resources that even if you don't need it, but I'm pretty sure there's someone in your community that needs it, that you guys could also share. A lot of them are online resources, and if you're located in New York, I also put a link of where you could locate your food pantry. I also put a link if you don't live in New York where you could also locate your food pantry as well. So I'll drop these in the chat. Yeah. And that's it. It's sharing time for those that choose to share. So how does everybody feel? How's everybody doing?
I feel very inspired. I mean, food is just food, but like you had so many angles to, write about. It's just
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah. Hi, Rosita. Haven't seen you so long.
It's been a while.
Yeah. But thank you for sharing that. So does anybody want to share? Even if you don't want to share like what you wrote, but just share like how you feel about after like reflecting on these poems, writing or like after these poems. Anything you want. Open space. And Angie, you stopped recording, right? Or no?
Hmm.
Angie.
I think it still records all the way till the end.
Okay.
Yes, we still recording
Okay. But do you record like the sharing part?
all of it.
Okay.
I'm gonna share. I wrote this kind of encompasses a few of the prompts, but a food that holds a strong memory or feeling for me is mango with the three golpes. For a long time, this was my favorite food. Growing up, it was one of the things that brought me the most comfort. I could eat mango 3 times a day and not get bored. As someone who had come from the Dominican Republic and went from the warmth and love of my maternal home to like a cold, dysfunctional life of an American existence in a small, cramped Bronx apartment, with family members who were strangers at best, who were strangers and at best indifferent and distant and at worst abusive. One had to find comfort where one could as a child, and the food was a place of comfort, for me. The mango represented a connection to the art, to my roots, to my mother. It represented the fulfillment of a need, the one need that was being fulfilled. At least I was fed. It became an emotional experience, giving me the warmth I lacked. My father made such good mangoes, and he always made sure we had plantains and the ingredients to eat it. Back when plantains were 10 for $1, we always had a box full under the kitchen sink. The hours spent at supermarkets, particularly fine fare and Western beef, filling carts of food, gritting teeth, trying to bear the cold meat section, bartering and pleading for cereal, snacks, and ice cream. Even when we went out to restaurants, that was all I ordered for a while. Sometimes it embarrassed him. I didn't care. All the warmth that my dad couldn't give me in the way of words, actions, consistency, safety, he gave it to me with food. And for that, I am grateful. Even now, when I have difficult days, I eat mango and it makes me feel better. It comforts, it heals, and it brings me simple joy. Now I've diversified my palate and become international, but some dishes are legendary.
Thank you for sharing that. Does anybody else want to share?
Sure. I also want to share.
Yes.
Yesterday's workshop inspired me to talk about silence, and I think I'm like getting into that mood. So I think this is like another chapter of this long story. Everyone talks about our food, the tacos, the salsa, tequila, mezcal, guacamole, and more. I truly believe everyone has a Mexican inside of them for the amount of guacamole they have eaten. In our everyday life, I come home and Eric is making the guacamole, the food of the gods. When I share with my friends that we eat at least once a week guacamole, surprisingly, then they say, "What a fancy style of food you made." But in reality, that guacamole for us is our everyday life in Mexico. It reminds us home. It reminds us the color of our parties in our houses. Families coming together, the carne asada with cebollitas, the nopales with limon, and the endless love. Those are the best avocados, we will say, as we are in front of the supermarket and we see that those avocados are made in Mexico. Those avocados that were on the Super Bowl weekend sold out. As I came home, I say to my husband, "No lemons, no avocados is the Super Bowl weekend. Everyone wants guacamole at the table." I remember years ago when I moved to the city, I couldn't believe that I would be paying $5 for one avocado. This is a joke? This is so expensive. In Mexico, the kilo will cost me 20 pesos, like not even a dollar. The first months, I refused to pay that for one avocado. In the restaurants, if I want my food with avocado, I will need to pay $3. $3 for half of the avocado? I will say no, even if I had the money. And not because it wasn't about the money. It was about me refusing to accept that I was not living anymore in my hometown, where abuelo will bring all types of avocados that were from our rancho. We will eat avocado every day because we didn't want them to spoil. My grandpa will share with everyone avocados and will bring up plastic bags for the tia, for the tío, for the abuela. It was the part of me that refuses to accept that I was in a new country, in a place where every time that the president has conflict, the avocados will go up. And when the waters came down, the avocados will go on sale. My grandpa, no matter what, he will give food to everyone. We had this land full of trees, some of them giving us plátanos, some of them giving us duraznos. I remember those summers where duraznos in almíbar would be the dessert in the house. And after eating 5 or 6 peaches, later I will go again to eat more. Those were my candies. Abuela suffered from diabetes. So unconsciously, as a child, I was aware of the sweet savor and how to take care of her. Abuelo knew I loved the desserts because that was my only sweet all summer around. He will have the duraznos for us. What a sweet memory to remember. It was so simple just to go into our backyard and taking the peaches from the trees. We knew summer was over when the leaves would start falling in the rain, the smell of the rain on the ground, and then the pomegranate, I don't know how to say that, pomegranate
Yeah, yeah,
trees
yeah.
will start blooming. The pomegranate will start falling because September was there, and Abuela will make a divine dish, los chiles en nogada. And with that, we will talk about history and how Augustinian nuns from the convent of Santa Monica invented chiles en nogada to celebrate Mexican independence and honor Agustin de Iturbide. We will gather together to eat in familia, to learn about our story, to learn about our culture, and pride to be from Puebla. How beautiful was that? Please, could you allow me to go back to those years? Could you allow me to hug them one more time? To tell them how rich I was, not because we have money, but because they allowed me to have a life where food was never an argument, where food was always a learning. Because Abuela will wake up every morning at 5:30 a.m. to make me my breakfast. How fortunate I was to eat those tortillas from scratch, las marchantas that will call them in Tehuacan, came with their tortillas basket on the back, and we will buy them all because Abuela will make food to sell for the people who work in fabrics. And I will come back from the school and knowing that Abuela was there, always feeding the people. No one wanted to miss those plates because Abuela was not sharing food. She was sharing love, history, empathy. She will give food to the people who did not have money to pay that day. And with that, I learned the food of love in one of the most precious expressions that is only learning in silence, in silence of sharing the plate, the cup, the silence of food.
Whoa.
Sorry if it was too long.
Yes. Wow. So rich.
It was great.
Huh? It was about the avocados a lot, but also abuela. Oh, it was just rich. And so there's history there too when you talk about the avocados, how they're grown in Mexico. And I understand the Hass avocados from Mexico are more nutritious than our avocados, which are larger and I think have more fat in it. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Does anybody else want to share?
I don't want to share what I wrote, but I do want to share that I appreciate and I loved how the last prompts you kind of connected it to community because it helped you see a bigger picture. Like I really focused on one memory. Like I was stuck on one prompt, not stuck, but that prompt I wrote throughout the whole time. But I am gonna write with the other prompts because I really started to see like how things were connected and how a lot of meals as a child meant something for me, but for the person that was cooking it, it was something else. And specifically the memory that I was writing about was about a food that I used to eat and I no longer eat because we ate it so much to the point that it literally makes me sick to smell it. Um, and I was literally having the same conversation with my mom yesterday, and I got her side. So it's so interesting that today's workshop was about food because she was like, wow, tú sí eres malagradecida. Like I was doing this with all of this. And I'm like, Ma, I was like 9. I just didn't understand why we were eating the same thing again because it had never happened before in our lives, right? Like whatever we wanted to eat, she was able to cook it. And I just remember this one specific memory where I'm like, oh, I can't even smell this food anymore, Mom, because like I'm just done with it. But she was explaining like it was a sacrifice. There was a reason why we were eating that same thing. But in my brain, I'm just like, oh, my mom is making this again. Like, oh my God, I just can't have it. Um, so I really appreciate you connecting the dots and also for us to think bigger because I really think that's what made Kim's and Isaimi's personal narrative really pulling, right? Because they're telling you a memory, but they're also adding the history intentionally or not intentionally. Once you start writing that story, you start to see that it's more than just that meal and that table. So I appreciate you doing that because that was really interesting.
Yes, well, that's like my intention to connect it to community. So you said it perfectly, Marcel. That was like my whole intention because we need more now than never ever. We need community more than ever. Like there are a lot of people that are going through a lot of struggle, and they are gonna use just one food, and that one food is gonna take them through a lot of stuff that they're about to go through. So yes, that is my intention. Okay. Um, if anybody wants to share, or just one last close up before we leave. I share the prompts, additional resource on the chat if you want to save it as well.
If nobody wants it, I'll take it. I tried to incorporate, I think, 2 or 3 prompts. So I started with, there's so many foods I still remember from growing up, but the ones I remember the most are the ones Magdalena cooked. Magdalena engineered delicious food for 16 people with voracious appetites. She made 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Mother created our caldo, I think, or something. Oh, our algo. Yeah. We used to call it algo, which means something, a little bit. That's something of a little bit, which was our mid-morning snack. Magdalena followed the menu my mother gave her, and she'd go to the store mid-morning to get the supplies for the day. Everything was fresh. We did not have a refrigerator. Did I mention she washed all those trastes by herself? So that was from prompt 1, and then I moved to prompt probably 2. The last few days before we moved, my mother was absent from home because she was cleaning up the new home, the new house. It was a mansion with 4 bedrooms for 9 people. I'm embarrassed to say that the house was infested with rats. It must have been during those pre-moving days the mom hired Magdalena. She was just there when we moved, offering her food with a smile that blinked a gold tooth. Her whole body shook when she laughed. Magdalena cooked delicious foods that provided as much comfort as her presence. She carried a pot full of soup through an open corridor along the edge of the patio to the lunch table. Then she carried a huge bandeja of rice, another with meat, another with beans, and another with plátanos maduros. And that's where I ended. So it was a lot more about her than the food itself. I want to get into the food, but I wanted her in the picture.
Thank you for sharing. Does anybody want to share? And just one last share before we leave. Any thoughts?
I just want to say again thank you because you with the last prompt you make us, or at least you make me think on, as Maciel said, on the community. And it's the first time that I'm thinking about the community, which is crazy. And it's kind of embarrassing to say that, but I didn't thought about how my grandma showed me, the love of sharing the plate, and with the community that didn't have money. I mean, I didn't thought about that until now that I'm 35, and I saw that growing up. And so thank you so much for that, Yaddy. That was a beautiful learning. I really appreciate from the bottom of my heart. Really, this is like an eye open like workshop. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, no final thoughts? Everybody's good? Happy Sunday. Thank you all for coming. And yeah, we will see each other next time. Anything else?
No, I was just gonna say thank you. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Yes. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good Sunday.
Thank you. You too.